Howdy guys, if you made it this far, congratulations, you passed your application process into the Blaine County Sheriff's Office. Today I'm going to be explaining the Blaine County Sheriff's Office standard of procedures. Basically, I'm going to go over everything in here, I'm going to explain it in detail, I'm going to go through a few scenarios, and then we're going to go through it. Alright? So, one, you've passed the application. That is step 1 of 5 you'll be going through. Next one is your SOP. You're going to watch a few videos just so that you can get the role-playing experience down, so that when you're on the road, it'll be easy. As you go along, you'll get three more tasks after this, so you won't have too bad of a process. So we're going to go from there. Starting with the SOP, this is a standard operating procedure. We want you to follow this procedure as much as possible with the penal code and common sense. If you don't have common sense, please try to find some common sense because it's going to be required. Alright, first one we're going to do is responsibility as an officer. Your job is to be the role models in the city. As it says to protect and serve the fellow citizens as their everyday lives. You play a big part in their lives and involved in the community. You need to act like you're always being watched because you're the community role model, and you need to help. You're going to be held to a higher standard as everybody else is. Understand that you abuse your power, you will be taken under removed from your position. That's just an automatic termination. Do not abuse your power. Next one, community rules as an officer. Do not jail someone without reason. Remember, we're not here to be tyrants, we're here to be officers, peace officers, real life experience. Do not jail someone just because they look a different way, anyway, in race, color, gender, anything. Do not jail them for those reasons. You have to jail them by the penal code, which we have provided. Make sure you follow the penal code. Do not get any LEO bikes that are not your rank. Obviously, you're new, so you're going to get the Crown Vics or one of the lower rank cars. As you build up your ranks, you will get the cars. If we find you with those cars, you can get either demoted or department removal or department blacklisted or suspension if you continue to do that process over again, or if you get caught with it. We ask you that if you get any high-powered weapons like an M4A1 or a shotgun, you go back to your vehicle and pull it out. You are not going to have that on you. You're not going to have it anywhere in your pockets. I don't know anybody who pulls a shotgun out of their pocket. You're going to have to go back to your vehicle and pick up that weapon, then use that weapon. Do not, if we catch that, that's fail RP. Do not do it. Do not hang around the police station unless asked to. We will tell you when we want you to hang around the police station. Other than that, do not hang around the police station. If we find you around the police station just joking around or messing around, we're going to take care of you. So please make sure that you do not hang around the police station. You should be on beat patrols. You all have patrols you need to do. You need to make sure you get them done. Do not abuse your authority that you hold as an officer. You abuse your authority, it's automatic termination. Do not abuse your authority as an officer. You're here to keep the peace, not cause the peace. Alright? So please make sure that you do not abuse your authority. Next, the +1 rule. Anytime you pull over someone or any situation, always think there's one more person there. As what I say, here's the scenario. If you're pulling over someone and there's 3 people in the car, always think there's 4. That's pretty much the general meaning behind it. So if there's 3 people in the car, think there's one more there, there's 4, call in for a 1032 if needed. Odds are you're going to need a 1032. So 1032. So make sure you remember that. Do not, if you don't follow this rule, you will be retrained. This rule is very important. This is what keeps officers safe. This is what keeps you safe. So make sure you follow this rule. Next one, there's two types of force. There's lethal force and non-lethal force. Lethal force will cause body harm. Non-lethal force does not. Non-lethal force is more of a tied to restrain the subject. Lethal force is trying it's restraining but more lethal about it, more causing a bodily harm, more injuries and possible death. This is the use of force model. I highly recommend you get to know it. There's the professionalism, which is basically where you always should start at. Then you go to tactical, then you go to threshold, then you go to harmful, then you go to lethal. That's the process. On the officer side, it says you cooperative control, ask them to do something very nicely and politely. If they don't do it, then you give it a little bit more demand order. Say, sir, I need you to stand here. Next one, you go to compliance techniques, maybe grab them by the hand or grab them by the shoulder and say, sir, I need you to come here but you need to tell them. Defensive tactics, you need to go ahead and use some kind of weapon. Your taser, your baton, your pepper spray, all those. Make sure you use those there if needed. Now, the last one, lethal force, is a deadly force. You have to use your weapon. You need to make sure you're using the 1+ rule. So if they have a taser, you pull out a you have an officer with a taser and you have an officer with a gun. If they have a gun, you pull out a gun, the other officer has a assault rifle. If they have a baton or a bat, you have a taser, or and the other officer has a gun. Stuff like that. This is just common techniques that you need to know. This is the level 5 process. Just remember, anytime you use a taser, this is the process of it. You tase you need to warn the suspect first. Say, "Sir, you're going to get tased." I do up to 3. "Sir, you're going to get tased." "Sir, you're about to be tased." "Sir, stop, you're going to be tased." And then you need to yell it 3 times. Tase, 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 tase them, and wait 5 seconds for the tase cycle to go through. Once that is done, then you go ahead and go in for the cuffing. If the person is unfazed about it, you need to process up to lethal force. So you'll go from defensive tactic to deadly force. You'll go ahead and pull out a weapon in that process. Next, you have the purpose of the UOF continuum. The UOF allows the officer to be 1 step ahead of the subject. So always to be 1 step ahead of the person in front of you. Remember, if you're not 1 step ahead, you're 1 step behind. You're going to be in trouble. The UOF is implemented to justify the amount of force needed and resolve an incident minimum harm to people around them, the person, and the officer. So make sure when you do this, you do it based off the scenario. I understand we have a chain of command, but do it based off the scenario. So with all the subjects is being combative officer can remain in control using the lethal force UOF. You need to use it. It is very important. If you don't use it, there will be circumstances. Taser demonstration. Every officer that comes through the program will be tased. This is so that you feel how it is, so that you know how it's going to feel on the subject. You need to make sure before you draw your taser, you need to say, "Sir," you're going to have your taser ready. You're going to say, "Sir, you're going to be tased." Then you warn him. Once you've warned him, you need to say it loudly and clearly so they hear you. Once you do that, then you go ahead and start the process of saying, "Sir, you're going to be tased. Sir, you're going to be tased. Tase, tase, tase." Then you shoot them with the taser. Then you wait for usually in the chest or in the back if they're turned around. The taser will have a 5-second cycle. You need to let that 5-second cycle clear. Once that's done, then you go in for control and cuffing them. After that, you do not touch that suspect unless the cycle is complete. If it's not, let it complete. If the subject is still not compliant after the cycle and the taser twice until the tase them again if they do not become compliant. To use the taser, you must feel the effects of the taser. So now we're going to have officers tased. So you will be tased. This will be for the cadets. This will be for everybody. Whoever comes through the program will get it. Alrighty. Use of lethal force. Lethal force should be the last resort in any subject, any situation. The only time you should use lethal force is when there's a suspect is in deadly threat to the officer or the civilian. So if you're threat with possible death or the civilian's possible death, you are allowed to use lethal force. You are to shoot 2 shots into their chest. After that, if they still don't go down and they're still trying to attack, you shoot 2 more shots. Lethal force is not to kill, it is to stop. You are stopping the threat of the deadly force that the person is providing. You need to stop it. You're not killing them. Once they have stopped, then you're good. If they stop and he's still alive, you're good. You don't need to finish him off. That's overkill. You will be charged with murder if it's overkill. So make sure you follow this. You shoot twice. If he's still coming at you, shoot 2 more times. If he's still coming at you, shoot 2 more times until either he stops dead or something happens. There's a difference between you handling the situation and you being called a murderer or charged with a murder crime. Code of response. 0s if your game crashed, that's basic ones. If anything happens to your game or something happens, 0. You should tell that to the dispatcher. Code 1 is the response to a normal call. All traffic, you can only go 15 over. You shouldn't have to use lights and sirens. Code 2 is the response to a situation. It's not life or death, but it's about there. So what you need to do is you're going to use lights and sirens through the intersections, but not all the way through. You can leave your lights running on, but lights and sirens through intersections. You can go about 20 over. 30 is a turn to a life or death situation. What you need to do is you need to go 35 over the speed limit. You need lights and sirens to every response. Now remember, this is not required all the time. You can go slow, but try to get there as quick as possible. Signal 100 is when the dispatcher asks for all radio clearance. So make sure you clear your radio and let the dispatcher talk, because he or she is relaying very important information that you need to hear. Radio communication. Control center is used during the patrol. We will have someone in the station there. You need to be using 10 codes, phonetic alphabets, and push to talk. If you're not doing any of these three, you'll be written down for it. As we go on, it'll get stricter and stricter. We're going to require more things. You need to know your codes. You need to know your phonetic alphabet. If you don't know both of these, you better well know it, because this is what we're going to be starting to require. Do know that you will be asked to, at random times, to give a report on on a patrol for maybe a scenario that happened. You will be required to do this. If a signal 100 is called, you are required to allow the dispatcher to relay the information unless it is an extreme emergency. This is what is required. This is how it normally goes in a normal police radio. This is how we're presenting it. Think of it as a normal police channel. This is what we're going to be doing, a normal police channel. You need to keep the chatter to a minimum in dispatch. Dispatch needs to hear everyone. We don't need to hear someone in the middle of a call go, these guys to me, that. We don't need to hear that. Our goal is to get clear line communications to the dispatcher and relay information from there. Radio communication is a mistake. Be sure dispatch knows what you're doing. Give dispatch as much information as you can. You need to give information to the dispatcher so the dispatcher can rely on highly important information that you have. Common 6, code zeros. You need to tell a dispatcher who you are, the unit number, so that he knows to mark you code 0, i.e. 1936 code 0. That's perfect right there, all you need. Common mistakes is dispatch, I'll be 10-8. Proper ways, 1936 to dispatch, seen as code 4, show 10-8. This is the proper way. Make sure you're following. When making a call to dispatch, always give your unit number before you call. So say 1936. 1936, go ahead. 1936 to dispatch, scene is code 4, show me 10-8. Easy, simple. Make sure you do it in CAD also. Allow the dispatcher to be the most important one in CAD. Dispatch should be doing all the CAD work. You should be looking at it, making sure it happens. If it doesn't, you fix it. Speak calm, clearly. That's all we ask. Never yell or scream over the radio. It does not help if you're yelling or screaming. You speak calm and clearly, we'll hear you better. If you're yelling and screaming, we're not going to hear you better. So please do that. Next one is priority calls. There are two types of priority calls. Priority 1, emergency calls, which are immediate action. Priority 2 is not a life-threatening injury, but it's a life to a property or a crime. That's what it is. We already went through that. Miranda Rights. You need to read the Miranda Rights before they get to the jail cell. If you don't read the Miranda Rights before they get to the jail cell, what happens is they will be released. Here's how it goes. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say or do can be held against you in the court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be provided to you. Do you understand these rights as they've just been read to you? With these rights in mind, would you like to speak to us? You need to say all of that. If you don't say it right or you don't say it, the case is dismissed. They will be removed. The record will be removed. You need to say it. If you don't say it, you will be written up for it. You need to say it. I don't know how much I can stress this. You need to say it. Pursuit. In a pursuit, there's two major things that happen. Pitting, which is the lead car after 5 minutes can pit in a safe area. This is where the officer will come to the back two wheels of the car and turn the car around, mixing it and throwing it off to the side, and then all the cars box it. That is pitting. Code 5ing a suspect is if you're on a 10-11 and you find out he's a warrant for his arrest, you code 5, you put two cars right next to each other, and you issue a code 5 stop. You will send out an additional 1032 to scene, your backup. Dispatch will go ahead and consider this a very highly thing. You will go non-lethal. The other person will be lethal behind the vehicle door, and you guys will calmly and instruct the driver to get out of the vehicle, throw his keys out the window, get out the vehicle, and step back towards the police cars with his hands up. Slowly, if he keeps asking why are you doing this, you tell him, sir, we'll tell you once we have you in cuffs, and you cuff him. That's all. Keep continuing to do that. If he runs off, then you chase him. Stuff like that. We'll go over this in the training. This is how you do a code 5 stop. You will learn how to do this in the training, but here's how it is. It's called a V formation. So let's say they're on the side of the road here, as you can see here. This is the road. This is the side of the road. They'll be here. One will be here. One will be here. The driver on this side will issue the arrest. This person here will be the cover fire. So they'll have the gun. They'll be the one coming in for the arrest. Allow the person to back up to the car. You go ahead and just let him open up his shirt, turn around, let him see if there's any weapons, and then move him back to the back of the car. This is for the dispatch section. I have it in here for you guys because it's important. Dispatch will have this part, this little thing right here in front of their thing, so they are the active dispatcher. Please know that. Here's the Phonetic Alphabet. You better know this. This is your Phonetic Alphabet are mandatory in all RTOs and non-RTOs. Failure to provide this result in demotion, removal, or removal from ranks completely. Code 10s, obviously they're all here. Code 10s are required, and if you do not do them, possible removal or suspension from the department. Signal 100, we went over. This is how you would do it, a proper way to do a 10-8. This is if there was no issues. This would be the officer to dispatch. 1936 to dispatch. Dispatch would say, go ahead. Or 1936, go ahead. 1936, show me 1041 10-8. Dispatcher, 1936 showing you as 1041 10-8. That's the proper way to do a traffic, or how to call in. And call out would be the opposite. You just say how to call out. Proper 1011 would be 1936 to dispatch traffic 1011. You can say traffic or 1011. Then you say 1936, go ahead. He'll say that. You'll say, show me on a 1011 with the exact location with the vehicle description starting with the car, color, the make, model, occupation, count, times 1, times 2, times 3, etc. And with the additional 1032s. Please follow that. That's important. If we don't hear this, you're going to get written up for it. Follow the same thing to dispatch, go ahead. This is if you're running a name check, 1027, 1029 on a trooper, common spelling, no or non-common spelling, Booker. 1936 standby, 1936 go ahead, and then he'll tell you what the information is. Please read that. I want you to read it carefully and decisively. We already went over that we talked about. Codes we talked about. Dispatching procedure: if an officer is down, signal 100 is automatically called. 2 officers are en route to that call, or 3 or 4. Not the whole department. 2 or 3 are called to that department. If a supervisor requested, you will notify the supervisor on duty, and you have to respond to that. You tell the dispatch that you need a supervisor out to your location. Code signs for the department are enforced and mandatory. You need to be calling them out properly. Ranks are not guaranteed and are held responsible for the following actions. The best of your ability to maintain and list instructions by our dispatching director will always hold the standard in dispatching. Failure to follow this responsibility will result in an official council meeting, and depending on the negativity actions will result in warning, demotion, suspension, removal. Understand, the dispatch department will write down if you're not following your orders. Now, if they fail to provide information that is negatively towards you, or if they fail to provide information or if they're writing false information, they will be handled with accordingly. But if you, as an officer, the dispatch will be recording everything and writing everything down for us, for the people to know. So please be on your best behavior when in these RTOs. You are being watched. You are being you need to be following these procedures. If you don't follow them, you could get a warning, you could get a demotion, you could get a suspension, could be removed. This is how important it is. Now, you will take the final portion. The final portion you will have to take is a quiz. The quiz, you must gain a 75% on it in order to pass. Please understand, this quiz is not easy. You need to probably watch this video once or twice, and you probably highly recommend is actually reading these notes. They're very important, they're very helpful, and they're going to be very easy. I highly recommend reading the penal code, because that's the next video I'll be putting out, is the penal code. So please do that. If you can do that, you'll be set and golden for being on the streets. This was step 2 of your process, so please continue on with the process, and congratulations once again to becoming an officer within the BCSO.